Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now let's talk about two fights that I think are upsets. In other words, I'm picking the underdog to win these fights outright. Right? The first is for a share of the heavyweight title. I'm picking Hughie Fury over Joseph Parker. Now let's talk about why. Let me just say, when you're facing a stick and mover, a guy who has a pretty good jab and who is committed to using his legs, in other words, he's staying away from you. He's doing enough to touch you to keep you off of him. But he's not close. He doesn't want to be in the pocket with you. Right? To people who aren't blessed with foot speed, they view the other guy as running. What the other guy's actually doing is piling up points. A crowd that comes for a shootout, by the third or fourth round, starts getting upset with the action. Right? They'll say, hey, why won't this guy stay and fight? The problem, though, is that if the slower-footed opponent doesn't do anything, then how could you give the slower-footed opponent the fight? Now, Fury has one of the best jabs in boxing, right? It's a great jab. It's enough to freeze you. It's not a placeholder jab. He's actually doing most of his damage with that jab. Now, Joseph Parker, who in my opinion has gotten some charitable decisions, is past the point of his career where I believe the judges are going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know many will claim that what I'm saying is incorrect, that fighters who have gotten gift decisions, what do I mean? I mean his win over Carlos Takam. What do I mean? I mean his win over Andy Ruiz. Right? A guy who's gotten a gift decision. And by a gift decision, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely undeserved. Parker could have done enough where you're within the range of, well, it's plausible. Right? But then you hear the scorecards. And what should be 12 o'clock, in other words, the two guys, neck and neck, suddenly becomes, let's say, 2 o'clock, right? Somehow Parker's getting the nod. I've seen this before. Oscar De La Hoya, with some of his wins, right? His win over Pernell Whitaker, for example. Then, of course, we get to the Trinidad fight, a fight he arguably won, and the judges went the other way. Right? Then the judges went the other way when he fought Shane Mosley in the rematch. Right? The first fight will give Mosley. And you started to understand that the boxing judging community doesn't like to have a guy out there who looks like he's getting favorable treatment. I believe Joseph Parker is going to face some blowback because the feeling is that Joseph Parker has, gone through some competitive fights and has gotten more from the judges than he should have. So, I believe if Fury starts the fight the way I think he's going to, by taking the early rounds, I think the judges are going to get into a habit of looking out for Fury, right? They're going to know Andy Ruiz, that decision, questionable, right? They're going to think to themselves, look, I need to make sure that this fight is on the up and up. Right? You saw it with Timothy Bradley against Manny Pacquiao, who got some decisions over Juan Manuel Marquez that, quite frankly, right, are open to discussion today. I'm just telling you that the next opponent against Joseph Parker, who pushes Joseph Parker, is going to get a close look from the judges. I believe that's Fury. Let's go one step further. Joseph Parker has a lot of skills. He looks like boxing's, one of boxing's better athletes. But Parker's a mild-mannered fellow. And I don't mean in the Clark Kent mode. Right? His rounds are close. You keep waiting for him to end the round with a fury. And he doesn't. Right? He leaves the fight close. Are you certain that against a stick and mover, Parker is going to have the presence of mind to jump deep in the pocket, to try to slip the jab or smother the jab, get inside and convince all of us that Fury has nothing other than the jab? Right? I've seen Parker against guys like Dimitrenko, where Dimitrenko's trying to push the action. Then Parker's able to counter and get, emotionally involved and actually end the fight early, throw bombs and stuff like that. But the other guy has to wake Parker up in my eyes. Right? Joseph Parker's the kind of guy where if you're friendly to him, right, and if you're not pushing the action too much, you're just simply pushing the action enough to win rounds, Parker's the guy who'll just go ahead and lose the round, in my opinion. Right? I'm not sure if Parker has the fight in him to break the rhythm that a stick and mover is going to create. Right? Is he going to cut off the ring on Fury, hunt him down, throw bombs? Is he the kind of guy who's going to say, you know what, let's just trade shots. I don't believe you hit as hard as me. You land some, I land some. Let's see who ends up better. I don't believe that's Joseph Parker. I think Parker's the guy who's gotten by on superior athletic skills and superior punching power. He doesn't create opportunities, he waits for opportunities. I don't believe those opportunities come against Fury. Right? Fury's going to be a big underdog, especially if this fight is in New Zealand. I like Fury in that fight to win outright. I'll hedge to play with Parker by KO. Understand the risk involved. If it goes to a decision, it's my belief that the judges are not going to go with the unbeaten champion. Right? I like Hughie Fury in that one to win it. Right? I'll hedge with Parker by KO. Now let's talk about a fight that, quite frankly, people need to get into the psychological part of the sport. You're Kell Brook. You were unbeaten. Unbeaten. Until your last fight. You've just suffered the first loss of your professional career. Right? Let's think this through. Right? Just like if you've never been in a car accident and then you suffer the first bad car accident, not just a car accident, but it's a bad car accident, the kind that leaves you with, let's say, a fractured eye socket, that kind of car accident. As I've said here before online, there are many of us, I'll count myself among them, who the next time I'm behind the wheel, my hands are going to be shaking a little bit. Right? I'll be looking down at that odometer, whereas before I wouldn't even glance at the odometer. It's up at 50, 60, 70. I'm like, look, man, I'm good. I've never been in a car crash before. Right now, I'm staring at the odometer after the crash, right? The next time in the car, I'm looking at that odometer when it's at 20, 30. At 40, I'm thinking to myself, whoa, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I need to slow down. I'm seeing the red lights from blocks away, right? I'm slowing the car down. I'm being safe. Now, can Kell Brook, who has gone from unbeaten for all his life, right, as a professional boxer, to beaten, and I'm sorry, I know the press sees this differently, but beaten badly, right? Corner throws in the towel. Folks, I don't understand the other argument, right? If I'm in a fight and I have a broken eye socket and my corner throws in the towel and it's the first half of the fight, I've just gotten my butt kicked, Right? I don't understand people in the press saying, oh, he looked better than we expected. Oh my goodness, he tested Golovkin. I didn't see it. Right? I didn't see it. So, here's the problem. Kell Brook is going to be out there, getting back behind the wheel. He's dealing with the fact that now he's no longer an unbeaten fighter. And wow. The other guy across the ring, the younger guy, he's rough, deep in the pocket. He's an inside-out fighter who's going to be on his front foot throwing hellacious body shots, hunting down Kell Brook, just like the guy who just beat him. Think about it. Right? Here in boxing, we talk about hungry fighters. You ask yourself, who's hungrier than a young lion like Errol Spence, who's trying to make a name for himself, right? Who views himself as the underdog against a guy who has the belt, right? Who realizes that he can't leave anything to chance, right? If the fight goes to the more known fighter, if the fight goes to the more popular fighter, if the fight goes to the house fighter, right, the champ, Errol Spence loses. So Errol Spence, his picture's in the dictionary next to the words hungry fighter. Errol Spence is not coming to take it easy on Kell Brook. Errol Spence is coming to try to give Kell Brook flashbacks. He wants Kell Brook thinking of the worst moments of the Golovkin fight. Right? To me, Errol Spence is going to beat Kell Brook. The red flags are all out. Right? Kell Brook just lost. That's bad enough. Now Kell Brook, who had a problem. Listen to the rumors in boxing. He had a problem making 147 pounds before. Wasn't he a little bit too quick to take that 160-pound fight? You get the feeling that Kell Brook was thinking about leaving 147 before the Golovkin opportunity came about. You remember 30 days before that Golovkin fight, Kell Brook was walking around weighing 170 something? So I have my doubts about Kell Brook at 147 as it is, because Kell Brook strikes me as a little bit too big for 147. Then you realize that Kell Brook is at that age where losing weight is a little bit harder. Right? All of us could lose weight when we were in high school and college. Right? Good luck doing that 10, 12 years later. Right? And you're telling me he's going to go down to 147? And his first fight back at 147 is going to be against one of the best body punchers in the sport? Tell me the Errol Spence fight you've seen, where the opponent after a few rounds actually has time to think. Where the opponent after a few rounds can actually think about pacing themselves. Good luck finding that footage. Right? Look at the Chris Algieri fight. You're talking about guys who are under pressure. They're under stress. In my opinion, Spence is exactly the wrong kind of style matchup for Kell Brook. Kell Brook is blessed with great legs, right? Against a less mobile opponent, right? Or against an opponent like, let's say, Joseph Parker, who's mild-mannered, doesn't want to rock the boat too much. A guy who's willing to, not be hyper-aggressive during a fight. Then Kell Brook is very, very good. But wow, he's in against a guy who's going to collapse the pocket, folks, and who's going to do it intelligently. Look at Errol Spence fights. Errol Spence is the guy who never comes in the front door. You notice it? Let's say you're facing Errol Spence. Let's call this the front door. Errol Spence is always jumping in the side door, isn't he? And the side door changes, doesn't it? It's like you're here looking for him here. Suddenly he's over here throwing bombs. He's someplace where you can't hit him with a straight right hand. Right? Then he's over here. Right? He cuts off the ring. Something you always see in Errol Spence fights. Always. Is his opponent with his back up against the ropes. So, I understand Kell Brook hits hard. I know Kell Brook can throw short, hard punches. Let's just say, though, the timing of this fight couldn't be worse for him. He's up against one of boxing's harder punchers, pound for pound, quite frankly, who's going to be hunting him, who's not going to give him time to think, who's going to have Kell Brook with his back up against the ropes just like Golovkin did. And his opponent's going to be younger and is likely to have more stamina. Right? What do I mean by more stamina? I mean, when you were in the 170s and you just fought at 160, you're the older guy and you're dropping down to 147. I don't care how good you look in the gym. If this is a typical Errol Spence fight where he's hitting you with body shots and pressuring you and keeping you working, I just don't think the weight loss is going to help Kell Brook's stamina. So to sum up, I like Fury against Joseph Parker. I'll hedge that with Parker by KO. I like Spence over Kell Brook. The hedge is going to be controversial, folks. The hedge is Kell Brook by KO. In other words, I believe that Kell Brook, who usually wins the majority of the rounds on the judges' scorecard, is going to be under such pressure from Errol Spence that even if that fight goes the distance, Kell Brook loses it. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. By the way, I do know Fury has looked a little shaky in fights. That Fred Cassie fight, Fury had some tough moments in that fight. That should tell you what I think about Joseph Parker's spacing in fights. I like Fury. I think he becomes heavyweight champion, at least has a share of the heavyweight belt. Let's face it. I believe the real heavyweight champion, apart from Tyson Fury, is Vladimir Klitschko, right? The winner of Joshua Klitschko is probably going to have the biggest claim to the title. But Hughie Fury, I believe is going to have a claim as well. And I do believe that Errol Spence lifts Kell Brook's title at 147. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.